Ladies, gentlemen, and brethren, good evening. Welcome to Solomon Live. And you are in for a treat this evening. We're talking special interest lodges. And there's a gentleman on the screen, perhaps you can see at the moment, and perhaps you're wondering why he's dressed like that. We shall discover all those answers a little bit later on. But letting you in nice and early, ladies and gentlemen, brethren, just to get you in place. And we'll begin, as per usual, our Solomon Live this evening at 7:30. So just get yourself comfortable. Thank you for stopping by nice and early. And we'll begin in just a few minutes' time. Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, and brethren. We're live across the UK, and per usual, we're live across the world. Welcome to this evening's Solomon Live. My name is Brody. I have the honour of hosting these monthly webinars, and tonight, a fantastic one. Discover special interest lodges. We'll find out what is the benefit of a special interest lodge, and our special guests this evening represent their special interest lodges. Sci-fi, we're talking Formula One, rugby, and of course, good old craft beer. So we'll introduce you to our special guests in just a few minutes, but in time-honoured fashion, just letting you in nice and early before we begin at 7:30. Good evening, brethren, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Solomon Live. We'll begin in just a couple of minutes in time-honoured fashion, letting you in nice and early. And special guests this evening will be talking about their individual special interest lodges. We shall begin in just a couple of minutes' time. Thank you ever so much indeed for joining us nice and early tonight. Ladies, gentlemen, and brethren, we are live across the UK. We are live across the world for this evening's Solomon Live. A very good evening to you. I'm Brody, the Provincial Communications Officer for the distinguished province of Worcestershire, and my job is to host these monthly lively exchanges of Freemasonry conversation. And tonight, our very special guests will be talking about Discover Special Interest Lodges and representing their own lodges. But if you've got any questions you would like to throw into our melting pot this evening, feel free to do so by using the question and answer facility on your screen. So without any further ado, let's welcome the lads to the show tonight. Hello, lads. How are you?
Evening.
Evening. All right.
Hey, so good to have you here, and we're going to have some fun tonight. But let's go around the screen at the moment from the way I'm looking at it. And gents, if you could introduce yourself, that'd be great. And first of all, Mike, I thought you could begin because let's be brutally honest about it. You look the most, how can I put it, appealing one amongst us.
The most special. The most special.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that, yeah.
My name is Mike Santo Pietro, and I am representing the Science Fiction and Fantasy Lodge, number 10,016. Although you might be forgiven for thinking I'm representing craft beer.
And actually, that brings us nicely, nice segue. That brings us nicely to Neil. Perhaps you could introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Neil. I'm here representing Horus Lodge number 3155, the Craft Beer Lodge.
Fantastic stuff. There is. Cheers. Just water in here, sadly. And you, Chris?
Good evening, everyone. So I'm Chris. I'm representing the Nomads Rugby Lodge, although if you talk to my wife, she'd think I'm doing the Magicians Lodge, wearing this lovely waistcoat. But so we're based in Derbyshire, but we travel different provinces.
Fantastic stuff. And last but not least, Daniel.
Good evening. Hi, I'm Daniel Graham, and I'm representing the Formula One Lodge 4168, based in London.
Fantastic stuff. Well, thank you for doing that, brethren. And it's now time to get to know your individual special interest lodges. But let's begin with you first of all, Mike. So tell us about the idea of special interest lodges, if you don't mind.
Sure. We all, I think, understand that one of the things that can make a unit strong is the bonding that is shared amongst its members. With a special interest lodge, you double down on that bonding by combining two passions, Freemasonry and whatever that special interest is. And what we've found, and I'm sure others have, is that we love talking about those interests, sharing experiences. There's an instant bond, and members will leave a meeting looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. And Daniel, I know you work closely with special interest lodges as a whole. What's the big picture with a special interest lodge, would you say? Because there's a bit more to this, isn't there, than Masons coming together and sharing their hobbies.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the obvious thing you're going to think about is this is an opportunity perhaps to save ailing lodges, to effectively repurpose them, give them a fresh breath into them, which is of course really important. And a number of lodges have been saved. Formula One Lodge was previously a Hallstone Lodge, and it's been great to preserve that. But the bigger picture, really, sitting outside this, is that special interest lodges, they serve Masons, they help people take on additional memberships and bring their passions together, which has been really good. And I think we've seen over about 750 new memberships from the special interest lodges group over the last year or so, which is brilliant. But I think the bigger picture and success here is creating the wider appeal outside of Freemasonry and actually using these special interests to bring people who have got a passion in their particular interest into Freemasonry and to bring their passions together with Freemasonry.
Brilliant. Beautifully explained, Mike, and Daniel as well. So, gents, let's do a free-for-all now. We'll go around the screen for now. So tell us about each one of your lodges and how they were constituted. So, Chris, we'll begin with you on this one.
Yeah, so ours was formed, a year ago now, and it was originally concept about 3 years ago when 6 members of our province were actually watching the European game in France. And after the game, they were sat in the pub, and the notes I got, it was that they got tear gassed, or they had the effects of tear gas, and that's probably where the idea came from, really, was the effects of that. We've then built up from that, and we got consecrated a year ago. And the whole idea of this was to travel. So within Lincolnshire, Nottinghamshire, Derbyshire, we have a 3 counties rugby. And the idea was to cover the 3 counties and Staffordshire as well. So to try and bring Freemasonry to everybody who's involved in the rugby.
So even though you're a Derbyshire lodge,
yeah,
it's like that you're involved in the other provinces, isn't it?
Correct. So I'm actually from Lincolnshire. So that's where my mother lodge is. So but I'm also part of this from Derbyshire. We've actually covered Nottinghamshire and Lincolnshire already as part of our travelling lodge.
Fantastic. And Neil, I'll ask you as well, actually. So we'll go around the room with this one, as I alluded to. So how did your lodge start?
Well, Horus was originally founded, we were a takeover lodge, so it was originally founded in 1906 for people who lived in Birmingham but worked in London. It was coming to a point where they were going to hand their warrant in, and we had, during lockdown, started what was called the Masonic Craft Beer Society, just a Facebook group that kind of grew exponentially. And then one day we got a call from the guys in Met saying, would you guys like a lodge? We, having no idea what we're letting ourselves in for, went, yeah, that sounds like fun. So yeah, again, while we are a Met Lodge and we're based in London, we are not just national, we're actually international. We've got members from Spain, Italy, USA, Scotland. We've got guys coming over from, I've got another guy coming over from America at our next meeting to join. We've got Canadian and Venezuelan who've submitted forms in. So yeah, we're just trying to bring the brethren together through the joys of having a pint together.
Well, it's fantastic, isn't it? And I tell you what, didn't realise you're international, so that is fantastic. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. So nothing like being a first-time secretary. You have to navigate your way through the protocols of international visitors and joiners.
Yeah.
Luckily, yeah, Med have got a very supportive team, so that's been quite lucky there.
Oh, brilliant. And Mike, I know a little bit about your lodge because a few of my mates are involved in your lodge. So tell me about your humble beginnings and how you came into fruition.
Well, we have to go back to around 2018 when the Primus Master of our lodge, Chris, and I were sat round a festive board. We both enjoy the programme Babylon 5, and so we had a discussion about who would be sitting in each of the lodge offices. What we didn't realise was that we were being overheard by a number of people around us who, by the end of the conversation, have said, well, if you're going to set up a science fiction lodge, we want a piece of that. We extended it to science fiction and fantasy, ultimately because we think there's some crossover. The Provincial Grand Master has always expressed his view that he would support a new lodge of a special interest. We've got a few already in Staffordshire. So what we did was we did a very tiny bit of advertising, and we were getting interest from everywhere. Our members come from all over the country. We've got them from Blackpool, from Worcestershire, from Warwickshire, from Bristol, from Hampshire, Hertfordshire, London. And we meet in Staffordshire, and they come up once every 3 months to enjoy everyone's company. We're slightly different to the others because they seem to have been takeovers. With us, it was a little more tricky because we felt that given the subject matter of our interest, many existing lodges would incorrectly assume that we weren't taking things seriously, and therefore a takeover might be difficult. We also had some very specific ideas about things we wanted to do. And we believe that would be an obstacle to some existing lodges who would prefer to keep their own traditions. So for us, we chose to create a new lodge.
Excellent. And I'm going to talk to you in a few minutes about why you look so magnificent tonight, because you honestly look like some bloke who appears in my dreams when I've had cheese before going to bed at night. So we'll get to that a little bit later on. And Daniel, tell us about how your lodge was born.
Sure. Actually came from an idea of a member who was in a unit that wasn't doing particularly well. That lodge was saved, and Jean d'Arc Lodge, which is just over 100 years old, actually came out of ex-services, members returning from armed services after the First World War, and grew a strong membership that declined in age over a period of time. It was a Hallstone Lodge. I would say that it was a takeover. But actually, in our terms, in motor racing terms, we'll call it an overtake. And it was formed from that idea, identified by John Parry and the special interest team. And they formed a steering wheel committee, brought in sort of 3 or 4 core people, and that nucleus sort of grew after a little bit of promotion towards that. So the lodge has just recently had its centenary, so it's quite an old lodge. But we got a name change through last year.
Brilliant. Well, I'll tell you what, I thought that was important to hear how your lodges were born and completely different stories as well. Now, gents, I don't normally do this on a Solomon Live so early, but we've already got a page of questions coming in already, such as the attraction of a special interest lodge. So I'll ask one of you to nominate to answer this question, but do you need, it's a nice quick one actually, do you need to be a Master Mason to get involved in a special interest lodge? If not, can you be initiated in to a special interest lodge? Gentlemen, who would like that? Oh, there you go. Well, I'll go with you on Mike. You put your hand up first, I believe, so you can have that.
For us, you had to be a Master Mason because we were a new consecration of a lodge and founders have to be Master Masons. However, yes, you can initiate. It is our intention to do so. We look forward to the day when we get our first initiate. We're still very young. We've only had 4 meetings so far. But yes, the plan is to initiate people. Yeah, I think that's answered it.
Yeah, I think it has.
I was just going to add that we've already had 2 initiations and we've got a 3rd coming up at the end of April. So, that's the real pleasure, is bringing in people who haven't experienced Freemasonry through the special interest into it.
Likewise with our lodge as well, exactly the same. We've had 3 initiations through in 4 meetings. So answer your question, no, you don't have to be a Master Mason to join. It's nice to actually have new people coming through that are joining because of the special interest and getting into Freemasonry.
Nice one. And Neil, what about your lodge, mate?
Well, we've only had 2 meetings, so we haven't had a chance to initiate anybody yet. I would add that if you want to join a lodge and you are not an unattached Mason, it's a lot easier once you've got your Grand Lodge certificate. It can be done before then, but there's a lot more paperwork. So what I would say is, if you find one you like, you're not a Master Mason yet, just go along, go to the meetings, get involved, have fun, and then as soon as you've got your Grand Lodge certificate, send the form straight in. We've had a couple of people done that as well. One of the guys who was going to be a joining member when we set it up, unfortunately because of COVID, his passing raising got delayed, so he had to actually join later than he'd intended. So yeah,
it's probably also worth saying, Brodie, that there's no restriction on ideas, right? If you've got a good idea, you think there's a target audience, you can motivate. There are plenty of people in the Special Interest Lodge team who'd be happy to guide, motivate, and steer anybody, of any standing towards what they want to achieve.
Brilliant, superb question. Thank you very much indeed. And very unusual for me to get a question in nice and early, but I thought that was a nice time to slot that in. So let's talk about your unique customs, because every single lodge, every single province has its unique custom, and I'm pretty confident that applies to to special interest lodges. Chris, tell me about your unique customs. You've got that wonderful waistcoat on there.
Yeah, my fetching. Well, the fact I'm wearing this has just saved me £5. So that's the first thing to note here. So it would be interesting to see if any of my lodge colleagues are on and wearing theirs. Otherwise, there'll be some fines going for the start of the next meeting. But yeah, so that's obviously one of our new unique features. A lot of the rugby lodges actually have caps, but what we decided we wanted to be different, and so we've gone for the waistcoats. We also have quite unique features. I think when leaving the lodge, we don't do the traditional parade out. We exit on scrum form, which is a unique sight. First time I saw it, I have to say, with the worshipful master in the middle of a book and in the middle of a scrum, sorry. So we have whistles at the festive board instead of gavels. Oh. Again, there's fines if you don't use your whistle quick enough. So as you can imagine with all rugby, there's fines galore, which and that's where the unique side, I think, the fact that we raise money, and then what we do is in the morning we have the lodge meeting, and then in the afternoon, wherever we are, we'll go to watch a rugby match and actually support the local rugby team of the lodge that we're at.
Oh, that's great. So it goes well beyond what happens at the festive board.
Correct.
Lodge room. So we might as well do a round robin with that one, actually, because it's a great question, isn't it? So Neil, unique customs or customs that are specific to Horus?
Well, with us, it's not so much about unique customs within sort of the lodge room itself. We're fairly traditional, that part of it. Our last meeting, which was a sort of the business one, we got through the meeting in 26 minutes. We had a craft beer. Yeah, craft beer author came in. She gave us a talk about craft beer. We did that about 45 minutes. For us, it's more about the festive board. What we do is we have a craft brewery who comes in, and we do a paired beer tasting with the meal. So we give them the menu, and they will then come up with a variety of different beers that they think the styles will match each of the courses. Then through the meal, they come in, they give us a tasting notes, they talk us through the pairings. We do all of that lot, and then afterwards we effectively take over the place for a private bar. Makes the logistics of finding the dining venues a little bit difficult. Our last two obviously have been at Freemasons Hall. So yeah, we were averaging about 100 people at a meeting there. So yeah, we come in out, I think, say last meeting, the meeting was 26 minutes. The festive board was about 7 hours.
That's brilliant. That is.
I'm sure we'll develop some interesting ways of doing things over time and some traditions. But at the moment, yeah, we're just finding our feet. And I say it's all about sort of recreating that sort of friendly pub room atmosphere kind of thing for us.
Oh, absolutely. And 2 meetings in, as you've just said, you're finding your way, aren't you? Now, Mike, we've got to talk about unique customs that happen in your lodge and indeed at the festive board. But we need to address the elephant in the room. Sir, what are you dressed as right there?
I'm dressed as a Centauri from Babylon 5, which is one of the alien races in that program. I will come back to that in a moment, if I might, please, Brodie. Our problem was we had way too much time on our hands during COVID. We had way too much time to think of things we wanted to do. So we wanted to be serious about the ritual, but we wanted nods to the genres in the lodge room. So we've got an awful lot of equipment that, if you like, nods to those genres. But we've always said that fun will be at the festive board, rather like the other guys have said. So serious in the lodge room, although visually you can see that we're having a lot of fun. At the festive board, we've got traditions from day one about things we will do. So everyone takes wine together. So if we're saying the worshipful master will take wine with the provincial grand master, we let them take a sip, but then everyone gets involved. And they'll shout out kapla, which is the Klingon word for success, for example. As we process in, we don't clap the worshipful master to his chair, we sing a cadence. We do a running fire for all the toasts. And this is where I'm coming back to the way I'm dressed, cosplay is encouraged. Not in the lodge room, but people can wear cosplay at the festive board if they feel comfortable doing so. The only one we won't do that on is the installation meeting, because we'll have some dignitaries there and we want to show the proper respect. But I don't want to take over the meeting, but did you want to see some of the equipment or not?
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll get back to that later. And if I forget, Mike, force yourself upon us with what you've got lurking in the background there. And Daniel, tell us about some of your unique customs that you have in your lodge, because that's one of the things that makes a special interest lodge special.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you know what? It makes it interesting for visitors. And I think that's what it's about, right? If you've got a special interest lodge, you want to show your speciality, your difference. So we kind of run the theme all the way through in terms of what we do. We process in a parade lap in a grid formation. We do an extra lap on the way into the lodge. We've got green flags for coming in. We've got checker flags for going out. We've got a particular fantastic piece of address to the Brethren ritual, which is performed by our director of ceremonies, which is all customized to the verbiage of and language of Formula One. Outside into the festive board, we've all got, I'm very proud of our firing glasses that we have. We've also introducing some Formula One gavels, which are made of pistons, and we're just basically trying to have fun with it. You know, look, what do we want to do? We want to protect and uphold all of the ritual, all of the really lovely bits about Freemasonry. We're not there to dilute that, but it's about having fun. You know, we go out to the words of Murray Walker, go, 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 as we process out. And you'll often hear the chain being played by the organist in the background.
Oh, that is fantastic. Well, do you know what? We've been talking for 20 minutes brethren, and already I think you've all done a great job in letting us know what happens in your lodges, and I'd love to come and visit you all. That's not a hint, by the way. It just basically means that you've created a desire for me to want to come and see you. Back to the questions, actually, and I think a nice, easy one. And once again, brethren, who gets in here first, you can have this. I'm interested in joining a special interest lodge. This is from John Steed. John, thank you for submitting your question. He says, is there a directory of them where I can see them all in one place? Who would like to have that?
Happy to answer that. There's a special interest lodge group that is managing them. I think there's 40 plus lodges, and there is a small directory. If someone wants to get in touch with me or you, Brodie, after, we can certainly put people in contact and share a directory of all of those wonderful units. And that list is growing all the time, from people who want to set up new ones and ones that we're uncovering, because special interest lodges, whilst there's been a rebirth in them, there are military lodges, shooting lodges, lots of stuff that's been around for years and years and years as well.
Yeah, brilliant answer. So thank you for getting your question in, and lots of questions here, brethren. I have to say, quite the list of questions, which is a good compliment actually to everybody we've got on here. This ties in nicely, actually. My next question: how do you promote your lodge within Freemasonry? So we've talked about the unique things that you do. We've talked about entertaining your own brethren. But how do you tell everybody else? Now, admittedly, we're on Solomon Live here this evening, but Chris, how do you promote your lodge within Freemasonry?
Well, the first of all is Facebook. We've got Facebook pages. We talk about it. So as I go to other lodges, it's talking about it, and certainly the fact that we cover 4 counties certainly gets a lot of interest because we cover a vast majority at all times. We've also, within Derbyshire Freemasonry, we've also got a signage at Derby Rugby Club, say about Freemasonry in general, and then we then talk about this, and the numbers are just growing because of the appetite, I think, for the way that we sell it when we're in lodges.
No, makes a lot of sense. And actually, just before I move on to Neil and ask you the same question, Neil, you've had a message here. Tell Chris there's a rugby football lodge in Yorkshire, West Riding, but we admit rugby league ex-players as well. So just something to pass on to you there, Chris.
Rugby league, was that? I'm Union.
Yeah. Rugby league, that's it, ex-players as well, yeah. Right. And Neil, same question to you, really. So, how do you promote your lodge? Because you're one of those lodges that's highly appealing to many people, as you've alluded to.
Yeah, I mean, well, it was born out of social media, the Masonic Craft Beer Society Facebook page. So it's on that, Twitter, Instagram. We have WhatsApp groups. We got a bit of help from Freemasonry today with the old print media there. Yeah, so on the front page of that one. But yeah, word of mouth does a lot. As I say, we've got our own website, horus3155.com. Yeah, we just use all the modern social media things. Yeah, word of mouth does a lot for us, really, I think.
No, fantastic. And Mike, your lodge, I've mentioned already, I've got a few mates in there, so I kind of knew quite a bit about what you're doing. But how have you celebrated your lodge with everybody else, actually, to get visitors and to attract newer members?
Well, our first 2 meetings were a consecration and a banner dedication, which the Provincial Grand Master designated full provincial meeting. So we got maximum capacity for the halls that we were in on both of those meetings. Since then, we've been assisting lodges with passing ceremonies. So they've brought people, word of mouth, as people have said, and certainly Facebook webpage. We haven't properly marketed yet, and we're quite aware we haven't, because we want to get ready, because we think it would just explode. Two of the things that I would specifically say we're doing, we had some very distinctive, I don't know if you can see that, lapel badges made, and we gave them out as gifts to non-members and members at the consecration. And what I'm finding as I go around, non-members are wearing it as they visit other lodges, so they're being asked about it. They're promoting us, and it's we've got our own members who visit and will always give greetings at the end of the meeting. And there are some very funny ways that they are responding. And finally, one of our members had these cards made up, which has our logo, it has our web page, it has the secretary's email address, QR code on the back, dates that we meet, and they've been given out to members who are distributing them everywhere. And so we're getting a lot of interest, I have to say.
Oh, that's good news, Mike, and true example of merch marketing working very well there. And Daniel, you're another one of those lodges that has mass appeal as well. So how do you market it? How do you tell people that you exist?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and one of the things that Mike has touched on as well is it's all about having a plan. And I think Mike said before that in a similar position we had a lot of time during COVID, and in fact I'd been on Zoom calls with many members of the lodge and steering wheel committee, and I hadn't met any of them in person, which was bizarre. But what we've put together for Formula One Lodge, and we've spun this out wider now to any special interest lodge that needs a little bit of help, is actually a comms strategy and a plan to develop the brand, the logo. We've also got badges that are going out. We're active on social media. We build a newsletter that we communicate with people. We put news in about Formula One as well as news about the lodge. We celebrate birthdays. We engage with people. We meet outside of the lodge, doing socials, as well as the lodge meetings themselves being extended to include race days. And it's about bringing people together. We have an active WhatsApp group. So, the tools are there. There's nothing there that I'm telling you that's unique or different. But we've coordinated it all together to complement it. And I guess you put a little bit of time in the planning and everything else comes out, much better.
Brilliant stuff. By the way, we have a very special guest viewing this evening, Assistant Grandmaster Stephen Varley. Sir, it's wonderful to have you on board. And he says at least 2 of the Nomads Rugby Lodge are rugby league players. So we're passing that one back to you there, Chris. Nice little term I used there to pass that bit of info over.
Yeah, I'll note it. He will make sure I get a notification of that, I'm sure.
Sir, thank you very much indeed. Looking forward to seeing you very, very soon. Perhaps, most definitely next Wednesday. Okay, let's talk about visitors. Now, we touched on this a little bit already. How important is it to welcome visitors to your lodge? Are they the beating heart of your meetings? Neil?
I would say that, obviously we only had 2 meetings so far. We've had about 50-50 between members and visitors. At our first meeting, I think we had about 60 to 70 visitors at it. So 50 members, 70 visitors, roughly speaking. So yeah, we definitely welcome visitors. Quite a few of them have become joining members or are becoming joining members at the next meeting. So we think we're doing something right there.
Absolutely, that's a great success, isn't it? Really, and the same to you, really, Chris. Back to you. So, how important are visitors? We often say, don't we, during a festive board, how important a visitor is to us. But how does that apply to a special interest lodge with your wonderful quirks?
I think it's crucial. I think it's for any lodge, not just special interest. I think, as you said, visitors are key to keeping lodges going. Really, give an example of how many visitors we're having in a cold, wet January in Grimsby. We had over 25 visitors, which doubled the numbers really of the brethren. So as Neil said, really, a vast majority of visitors, makes a big difference. And as Neil said, we've got a lot of those visitors that have gone on to join or join in. So it helps cement the future as well.
And Daniel?
I was just going to say, what's been really special, as I say, we never met before, but to come together with a bunch of people that you've never met before and take that step and plunge and visit a lodge and to discover the warmth and to discover something, every time I go out and I visit any lodge, right, you take something away with it, something that you pull into your own lodge, something that shapes that. And that's a lovely story. And all of these special interest lodges have got wonderful stories and traditions and customs that they're bringing into it. So I think there's a real pleasure in visiting. Likewise, we've got a huge geographic reach. So, there's opportunities for people to come from different areas. We all value visitors, across all of our units. What lodge would survive without visitors, right?
Oh, absolutely. And Mike, your word on that?
Can't disagree with anything the guys have already said. what we do and how we do it, those nods that we've put in there, the procession in, the procession out, the festive board, we do it for two reasons. We do it because we enjoy it, but we also do it because we want to put on a spectacle for those visitors. We want them to keep coming, either as visitors or as joining members. It's very important to us that they are as happy as we are when they leave.
Yes, nicely said. This is for you, actually, Mike. Well, I can't think of anybody else it applies to, although I am a little bit bouffon with the hair. But Liam says, I'm very impressed with the participating brethren this evening. Does the larger hair hinder investing people with collars at the installation? Now, he could be talking about me, but I've got a feeling he's talking about you, Mike. And certainly not talking about you, Chris. No disrespect.
No, it doesn't, because as I alluded to earlier on, we don't do cosplay in the lodge room itself. It's purely for afterwards. But I do have to say, I was wearing this at our Christmas meeting. And of course, we had Christmas crackers. And so I had to balance a paper crown on top of there somehow. That was difficult.
Yeah, just a little bit. Okay, brethren, I'm going to throw this at you. Whoever wants to get in first with this, let's do a free-for-all on this one. It's a really good question. What does your lodge, your special interest lodge, do outside of the lodge room? So we know how you entertain your visitors. We know about your wonderful, unique works during the festive board and within a lodge meeting. Chris.
Yeah, so as I alluded to earlier, so our big focus is giving back to the community, certainly in terms of the rugby. So as I say, we meet in the morning, usually on a Saturday morning, and then what we do is during the festive board, as I mentioned earlier about the fines for not wearing waistcoats, for example, is a big one. Even things like right-hand drinking is fines. So first lodge I attended, I got fined for not actually getting fined. So that's the level of fines that we go. And what the idea is that money generated is then given to the local rugby club, to their juniors or the mixed ability teams. The recent one that we did was we gave a donation of over £200 to the local Derby mixed ability team. So it's supporting the community as well as having a bit of fun as well.
Yeah, and that's important, isn't it? In everything we do in Freemasonry. Neil?
We haven't done a huge amount at the moment. We've just been getting everything set up. But when we were sort of before the lodge, when we were the MCBS, we did things like summer socials. We organised events around the country, people getting together and sort of, well, obviously there was beer involved. And we're looking to sort of continue that and find ways to work that into the charitable fundraising and things like that over the coming year or two. From looking at a couple of the questions that have come up in the chat, I'm thinking we might be organising some international visits as well. I'm hoping that Bulgaria has a good craft beer scene from one of the comments.
Well, yeah, I'm sure you'll find out. I'm sure you will find out. Daniel, same question to you, really. So we've got people joining us this evening who are Freemasons and non-Freemasons as well. And we all know that how important charity is to us. How important is charity in the community to a special interest lodge?
Yeah, listen, it's important to every lodge. You know, it's a vein of exactly what we do. What we're really encouraging from a special interest lodge group, shall I say, outside of Formula One, is for the individual lodges to tie themselves with an industry charity as well that's getting involved and link up with that to do that. It's important to feed back to those communities that we're there to represent through that special interest. You know, for Formula One, outside of that, to your question, we got 19, 20 races to socialize for. We go out, we go and watch races together. Our WhatsApp group is overflowing with banter. We have a sweepstake of who's going to come in the top 4 and who's going to come last. So we have plenty of opportunities to engage, you know, outside of the lodge. But, you know, look, units that socialize together stay together, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point, isn't it? And Mike, last word for you on this particular one. What does your science fiction and fantasy lodge do to support the community?
Well, we're still in discussion on this. Fortunately for us, we're not wasting our time because we're coming to the end of a festival. So that's our priority at the moment, is to raise as much as we can for the 2024 festival. But some members have already said that once that's done, they would want us to choose a children-based charity. whether that's, children's wards in hospitals or children's hospices, those sort of things. That's where the conversation is going. So we will pick a charity and make that our main focus, and then do little bits and pieces wherever we can for others. But in terms of working with the community, one of the things we want to do is promote Freemasonry in the science fiction and fantasy communities. Yeah. So our September meeting each year will be one where we get a dispensation on date and venue. We'll have a quick business meeting followed by a trip to a nearby convention. Families and friends will be encouraged to join us, and we are considering having a stall at the convention where we promote Freemasonry. And we'd be wearing appropriate clothing that promoted the lodge and Freemasonry, whether it be t-shirts, polo shirts, baseball caps, etc. That's the plan.
That is a superb idea. You can just imagine that at a Comic-Con, can't you? Great idea is that. And Daniel, I'm going to put this question to you, actually, because we know of your work with special interest lodges as a whole. Richard says, what's the most unusual special interest lodge that you've come across, or any of you have come across? Any ideas?
Wow. I mean, there's golfing lodges, there's whiskey lodges. I think we've got a building surveyors lodge coming together in the pipeline, or professionals from there. I'm trying to think of weird and wonderful ones. I'll add in later if anything else comes back.
Yeah, you throw that in. I mean, any ideas, Brendan? Have you come across any? I mean, have we got a fly fishing lodge? There's all sort of, if something exists in this world, I'm pretty sure we've got a special interest lodge for you. What do you reckon? Now, let's talk about some of the challenges that you've experienced along the way, because nothing easy in life, is there? Let's be honest about that. So some of the challenges that you've had when it comes to either starting your special interest lodge or where you are at the moment. Neil, can we begin with you on that one? Is that all right?
Yeah. Well, it's been certain challenges, mostly COVID related. I'm actually in two special interest lodges. My other one, the 7326 Social Media Lodge. We started our takeover process February 2020. So you can imagine what the challenge was there and what happened to the else there. After that, it's the usual things of with a takeover, learning the ins and outs of Masonic bureaucracy, making sure that the paperwork's all there, finding that how to advertise yourself, how to work out what the ethos of your lodge is going to be. I'm sure that all the guys are the same, that their membership comes from multiple different provinces. So there's lots of different people who come in who are all used to doing things similar, but slightly different ways. And it's working out how to make all of that gel together so that you achieve your end result, which is making a lodge that your members are going to love, and it gives something back, and just trying to make it work for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And gents, take over. How does that work for you? Any issues along the way? Let's go for it, Mike.
Yeah, I think he's hit the nail on the head. I mean, COVID was an issue. As I said, we sort of started talking about it 2018. And we came to a stumbling block when COVID was here. So it was about keeping the momentum going for not a takeover, but the creation of a new lodge. So we had to make sure that we kept all the members involved and fired up. So we had a WhatsApp group that was set up. In fact, we had more than one, a social one and one to do with the lodge. We had Zoom meetings. During those Zoom meetings, we arranged, I don't know if you've heard of Cameo, where celebrities will record messages for you. So,
oh, yes.
So we had some cameos from actors from within the genres, and we played those to the members where they were wishing us luck on the venture, etc. And once we got through all of that, when the restrictions were removed, being a new lodge, I had to get all 31 signatures on the consecration form or the application. And given where our members live, there was quite a bit of traveling involved. So that was another challenge.
Crikey, I can see Neil feeling your pain right there. And Chris and Daniel, whichever one wants to come first, what was it like? Any challenges in your wonderful lodges, either right now or while setting them up?
I think Mike's problems are pretty much echoed for us, really, because again, COVID. We started this process in 2019, and covering the 4 counties, exactly like Mike said, trying to get people together for the signatures, for the meetings, that type of thing was the biggest challenge. But we got there, and we're now a success and growing. Problems we're having at the moment, I think I don't really think there's any issues really at the moment. It's just a case of trying to build numbers.
Yeah, well, it sounds like things are going very, very well. And gents, I'm going to move on because we've well, this has gone in the blink of an eye as it usually does. So I want to fire as many questions to you as possible, and I'll get back to the questions in just a moment. But let's talk about your plans for the future, Daniel. Plans for the future with your particular lodge. I mean, have you got a game plan, a 5-year strategy, anything like that?
Yeah, we've got a plan, step up the level of engagement, enjoyment, introduce different ideas as we move forward as well. But look, success for us is that, you know, if we can make the lodge work externally to invite people in who are not Freemasons at the moment who share our passion, that's a real big measure of success. Can special interest lodges function outside of existing memberships inside the lodge? You know, we're not there to just cannibalize and you know, okay, people will join up because they want a second unit, they want something to do. The real success is being able to use that to share our enjoyment of Freemasonry with other people and bring them in. So that's probably the roadmap for us. Consolidate, grow our membership, you know, make sure also that we're able to grow and accommodate people. You know, we're fortunate, you know, we're in the Great Queen Street. We meet in number 10 lodge, which is obviously a huge room and gives us the capacity. But it's going to be about managing growing pains, right, as we go along, to make sure that we can scale it as and how we need to.
And the same question to you, really, Chris. I mean, future plans. I mean, I think things are going rather nicely, as you were talking about a few moments ago. But is there a strategy to take things even further in the next few years?
Yeah, so it's about growing, as Daniel said, really, but not just that as well, and not just locally. As there's a vast number of rugby lodges across the country, we're looking at forming a rugby group. So again, it's just encouraging us, as Daniel said, to meet like-minded Freemasons, to go, you know, and have parties up and down the country at different lodges, really, to just engagement.
And Neil, I mean, 2 meetings in, international success and attraction. What's the game plan for Horace moving forward, would you say, in the next few years?
Really, it's just finding out what works, what people want, and how to adapt around that. We might add in a dispensation, a third meeting, so that we can do a traveling meeting, go elsewhere. We're looking at working with there's a few other beer lodges springing up around, so sort of forming under the umbrella the MCBS there. So we're looking at seeing how we can work with them to sort of support it across the country, and just generally how we can make it more enjoyable for the people in the lodge, because that's really what we're here for.
And a different question for you, Mike. It's come from Stuart Dubois, and please forgive me, Stuart, if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. He says, do you have any advice on strategies for getting more interest from joining members and potential candidates, please? I'm on here representing Special Interest Lodge, and once again, forgive the pronunciation. Is it Shotokan Karate Lodge? Once again, forgive me if I haven't said that right. But Mike, advice to Stuart, who's kindly viewing us this evening.
Okay, well, I don't want to put myself across as any expert in strategy, even though I do that for a business. But I would suggest, I mean, you need to know who your market is, obviously. Appeal to them and what will hook them, if you will. If your meetings are interesting, if they are fun, I've always felt that fun is what will attract visitors and make them members. The relevance of making it fun to me is that in the parting song, happy to meet, sorry to part, happy to meet again. If those words are to be exemplified within your meetings and within your festive boards, that's what will attract people. Word of mouth certainly works. Facebook, all of those issues that we've already mentioned are useful tools, and you can target your audience with those social media avenues.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed, Stuart, for your question. And the most questions we've had in a very long time, Brendan. So thank you for chipping in. One more here, actually. Just back to you quickly, Mike. It's more of an observation and gets to my my last point. He says, this is from Duncan. He says, WM is a Star Wars nut. He would love to join Mike's Lodge. What's your email address? Perhaps you can give some contact details out in just a moment. And we need to see what you've got lurking in the background before we go, Mike. I haven't forgotten that as well. So, brethren, one more question before we disappear into the evening. This has been a fantastic Solomon Live. Thank you ever so much indeed for doing your special interest lodges proud. So what would you say to someone, and kind of a double question here, what would you say to someone who wants to join a special interest lodge and indeed become a member? Daniel.
Well, first things first, the secretaries will be delighted to hear from you. If you want to join a special interest lodge, you won't have any resistance towards that. So if you want to join, get in touch, go on the website, follow your passion and do that. If you want to set up a lodge and you want to get involved in a project or something else like that, the special interest lodge groups have been functional for a good 2-3 years now, and they're well skilled and experienced in all of the challenges and pains. And there's a great resource available now to steer and support people with that view in mind.
Brilliant. So we'll do a round robin with this one, brethren. Neil, what would you say to anybody wanting to join and maybe started, because you know exactly what that's like in both accounts, don't you? I haven't had to say this for a while, but you're on mute.
Right, so it was telling me, press and hold the key to the space bar. That'll unmute you. It didn't. Yeah, no, I would say just, yeah, if you find an interest, special interest lodge you're interested in, get in touch. They'll be more than happy to hear from you. It doesn't matter if you don't know anybody in there to propose and second you. We've all found ways of doing that, putting you in touch with people who'll do it. It can all be sorted. It's fine. You know, you'll get checked out by the provinces you go through. So it doesn't matter if you don't know anybody. We're welcoming, we're friendly, we're here to add some fun to Freemasonry. So just don't be shy, get in touch.
Oh, superb. Chris?
Yeah, as Neil said, it's having fun. You know, if you're interested in Freemasonry, interested in a special interest, what a perfect way to combine the two together and start your Freemasonry journey whilst enjoying the special interest as well.
And Mike, final word from you on this one, and for no other reason than I wanted you to pick up one of the items that you've got in the background that you've tempted us with from the beginning. But what advice would you give then to anybody who is looking to let's go down the route of looking to join a special interest lodge?
Very simple, just like any other lodge. As the guys have said, you know, we're all welcoming. We're all happy to share our experiences of that special interest. If you, I wasn't aware, but Daniel's pointed out that there was this group. So it's useful to know that, because that could be the starting point. What is there available out there? Is there a subject that interests me? Go visit, introduce yourself. Just like any other lodge, you would be welcomed. You get to meet and get to know others, and they will obviously propose you and second you, unless you're really nasty to them, of course. But it's just the usual way that you would join any lodge, really.
Fantastic. Brethren, that was a superb Solomon Live. I personally walked away learning so much, and I know that everybody at home or wherever they are at the moment will feel the same. Gentlemen, have you enjoyed your Solomon Live experience?
Brilliant.
Nearly as much as Freemasonry.
Off to celebrate.
Well, there you go. Well, if you want to launch that, Daniel, I'm glad you're doing it in your place rather than where I am at the moment. Brethren, it's been an absolute delight. Thank you ever so much indeed for joining us. And our next Solomon Live, please put this date in your diary, will be Tuesday the 23rd of May. Tuesday the 23rd of May. That's where we'll meet the Assistant Grandmaster, David Medlock. After a long and illustrious career in business and philanthropy, we'll find out what new challenges he's most looking forward to in his recent appointment. Once again, Tuesday the 23rd of May at our usual time at 7:30. If you haven't done so already, please register for Solomon, solomon.ujle.org.uk, full of essential, fantastic content for your daily advancement in Masonic knowledge. Until then, Thank you for joining us this evening, and we will see you back here next month. Good night, everybody.